Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with the next update from my project Level Up. I am working on my Magic Mini palette by Juvia's Place currently in this project, and that is in for my level 3. This project was created by me earlier this year, and I'm happy that so many people are already joining in. I will have everyone listed down below who has joined in. And I also watched Hailey's video the other day, her last update, and she mentioned that there was an playlist for this project, so I actually decided to create a playlist as well with everyone who is participating. So if you do want to check out everyone's videos, I will have that playlist link down below as well, just so the video is easier to find. But this project, like I said, I created earlier this year, and the goal of the project is to use your palettes more as a whole and not just focus on hitting pan on specific shades. There is panning involved though, so don't worry. I love hitting pan on eyeshadows, so I definitely wanted to incorporate that into this project. So for each palette that you roll in, you do have a palette like this. This one has 16 shades, and for level 1 you need to use every single shade once, and you need to hit one pan. And then for level 2 you need to use every shade twice, hit 2 pans, and so on. So like I said, rolled in my Juvia's Place Magic Mini palette for level 3. This has now been in for 2 months, and I'm gonna go through where I am with this palette and if I was able to hit my goal of finishing level 3 or not. But before I jump into that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So before I actually open up this palette to show you where I am, I'm going to show you where I was with this palette when I first introduced it as my level 3 palette. So this is what it looks like initially. Then I did have an update last month where it looked like this. I did have one pan at this point, and I did have a few uses and whatnot on the other shades, but I had obviously not completed level 3 as I only had hit one pan. So there is where I was last month, and I'm going to open up my palette and show you where I am today. So this is what our palette looks like now. I'm gonna have the comparison pictures up so that it's easier for you to see, but you can see what it looks like right there. So as you can see, this is the difference between the 2 months, and you might be able to get an idea of if I was able to hit my goal or not looking at them, but I will go through each shade in order. Before I do so, I swatch out the palette so you can see what it looks like. This is what the palette looks like. So that is what I was working with over the last 2 months. So let me briefly go through each shade and how many times I used each one and where I am with it currently. So the first shadow in the palette is Nubia, which I already used 3 times, and I didn't use it at all in the past month. Actually, Nubia, Sakia and Ocean, the first 3 shades, I all had hit my goal on already, so I didn't use them at all. Then lastly, on the first row we have Kessie, which is more of a kind of setting, blending out shade for me. I don't set my eyelid, but I do use these kind of shades to blend out. This one was actually one that I wanted to hit pan on, and I was able to do so, as you can see. In the first month I reached for this 13 times, and I reached for it an additional 5 times to hit pan on it for a total of 18 uses. However, after that I have actually continued to use it in this shade, and I have used it an additional 11 times after hitting pan on it, which brings me up to a total of 29 uses, which is amazing. And you can probably see that the pan is quite expanded. Like, I'm doing really well with this eyeshadow. You can see that there is a big dip, and the pan is pretty significant too, considering that I only hit pan on it a couple weeks ago. So that is the first row. Next row we have the first shade, which is Suba. This one I had reached for 4 times in the first month, and I did not reach for it at all in the month of April. Then next up we have Nana, which is like this orangey kind of matte shade right here. This one I had not reached for at all in the first month, but I did reach for it 3 times in the past month. I did hit my goal on this eyeshadow as well. Next up we have a Boronu, which is like that kind of bronzy shimmery shade. I had 1 use on it prior, and I did use it an additional 2 times. Lastly, for the second row we have the shade Kogi, and I had already hit my goal of 3 uses on this one, and I did not reach for it any additional times. For the third row in the palette we had the shade Faso, and this one I had not reached for at all, but I did reach for it 3 times, so I did hit my goal on this one as well. Next up we have Aja or Aya. This one I had reached for an additional 1 time for a total of 3. Vi, which is the next kind of deeper silver shade, I reached for 2 times for a total of 3 again. And then lastly, for the third row we have the shade Gemoya, which I had not used at all in the first month, but I did use it 3 times in the past month for a total of 3. So that is the third row. Then lastly we have the fourth row, which is where I have the second pan, and that is in the shade Ife. And Ife I reached for an additional 9 times in the past month for a total of 10 uses, and I was able to pan on this eyeshadow. It is a very small pan, as you can see. It's such a tiny pan, but I did hit pan on it nevertheless. I use this one as an eyeliner mainly, and that is kind of why the pan is so kind of dug in and small. But I'm just happy with the pan on it, and like I said, it took me 10 uses to pan on that shade. Next to that we have the shade Yara, which I used an additional 2 times, totaling 3 uses. So again, I hit my goal on that one. Buso I had not used in the first month, but I did use it 3 times in the past month. And lastly, for the last row, we have the shade Jejide, which I had already hit pan on. That is the one pan I had prior. So I did hit pan on that after 9 uses, and I did use an additional time after that. So I had 10 uses on it in total. But that is where I am with my palette. And if you are following along, you can see that I did hit my goal of hitting 3 pans. I pan on Kessie, Ife and Jejide, so these 3 shades here in the corners, and that means that I also have pan on all shades in here apart from 2, which are these 2 mattes right here. But I'm very happy with how this palette is looking, and as you could also hear, I did hit my goal of reaching for each shade at least 3 times, and that means that I will be rolling this palette out and replacing it with a new randomly picked palette for level 4. So like I said, I did hit my goal on my level 3 palette, and I'm very excited about that. There was a time in the month when I was kind of pushing to get it done because there was a few shades that I hadn't reached for yet, and I was like, oh, I'm actually gonna be able to hit it. But I did kind of focus in, and I did hit my goal very recently, and I did use every shade, like I said, 3 times, which is actually what took longest this time rather than hitting pan, because I thought hitting pan on 3 shades would be the thing that would take the longest, but rotating through all of those shades 3 times did take quite a while, especially since there was 16 shades in that palette. But I don't want to dwell on about that palette anymore because I'm just really excited to see what I get for level 4. I do have my wheel up with all of my palettes. I'm just going to randomize and see what I get. I do have the option to not go with the palette that I get, especially for these like higher levels. I think depending on what I get, I might use that, but most of these are fair game, and we're just going to see what I get. So the palette that I get is going to be my Subculture palette. Not the most summer appropriate palette, but I guess that will work. It is also a lot of matte shades, which is not the best for my Panda palette, because I'm panning the Modern Renaissance palette, which is the basically an all matte palette. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I will go for it though. I'm gonna go with Subculture, and I'm gonna pull that out so you can see what it looks like. So here's my Subculture palette. You all know what this one looks like. It is a very kind of cult favorite palette on YouTube. It's also like a very much like a hate-love palette. I do love mine. It is relatively new to my collection. I picked this one up in November, not last year but the year prior, so it's just over a year old in my collection. And this is what mine looks like. I do have a few pans in here already. I have 5 pans in here already, which is really good, and I'm excited to expand the pans as well as just hitting more pans in here. But the only tricky part is some of the easier shades I would say to hit pan on. I already have pan on. I have pan on Cube, which would be an inner corner highlight. I have pan on Dawn, which would be a really nice blending out shade again. I have pan on Electro, which is my favorite shade in this palette. I also have pan on New Way, which is one of the shades that would be nicer for like summer in here. So yeah, I do have pan on a lot of the shades that I would want to work on, but this is what the palette looks like swatched out, so you can see what it looks like. Out of these, I have just kind of thought about what I want to pan, and I think for sure I'm going to try to pan Roxy because we are getting into the summer months. I'm also going to try to pan Adorn because that is the only shimmer I have left to pan, and again I am just conscious that I do have mainly matte shades to pan in my Modern Renaissance palette. So those 2 are definite shades that I want to pan. For the 3rd shade, I am thinking perhaps Rowdy or All Star, like one of these dark shades right here, maybe using one of those as an eyeliner. And then perhaps maybe Destiny would be one that would be fun, or maybe Edge, again, more of a summer shade. It is more like a mustardy kind of yellow though, but I think that would be fun to work on in the summer. But I'm just going to play around with this and see how it goes and see what shades I want to work on. I think Fudge would also be a nice one to work on, but I have a lot of kind of brownie tones in my Modern Renaissance palette, so we'll see if I have something similar. Otherwise I might work on Fudge as well. But that is where I am. So in order to hit my goal on this palette, I need to use every shade 4 times, and I need to hit 4 pans. So we'll see how long that will take. I think that will definitely again take probably 2 months minimum, but that is the new palette that I'm going to roll in for level 4. So that, you guys, is it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're doing this project as well and I do not have your link down below, please let me know that you're doing this, and I will make sure to link your channel. Also make sure to check out the hashtag on Instagram, because there are a lot of people who are doing this on Instagram as well, and you can find them all over there with the hashtag. And otherwise, I really hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.